Welcome back to another episode of the Corporate Cowboys podcast. My name is Alex. As always, I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes, and we'll treat this as an open door consult, if you will. Pretend you don't have friends. No. Pretend the friends you do have, right? They don't take you seriously when you ask them questions about your job. And you're thinking, why would you ask your circle about your job? No, it's not so much the job that you have, the duties, the tasks that you do throughout your workday, but more so your career and how to develop it. Strategies, moves you could make within corporate to get better compensated, to get promoted, to move the fuck up or move out and work for yourself as an independent contractor, a consummate professional. If you don't have a circle that does that for you, well, you walked into the right place. And it's my hope that this podcast helps edify you in some way, well, where you're able to take notes and incorporate some of the knowledge that we distill across these episodes to help you improve your war strategy, because business is war. And you're born into this. You're born having taken the blue pill. And I guess if you've complied with the mandates, you've been force-fed. I guess if you want to say force-fed, because you always have an option. Force-fed blue pills, right? Now what the fuck do you do? And you can't talk to your circle? Why? Because you're rocking the boat? Why? Because you're causing problems? Well, you're in the right place. Today's proof of life, it's Thursday, April 6, 2023. And yes, some of what we say or how we say it, it's meant to have some comedic, some cathartic value, right? Because we are passionate about this. And that could come off. It may sound emotional, but just because we elevate our voice doesn't mean we are not thinking clearly. Some say it's the drunk and the young who are most honest, who are the most sincere. But when you think about it, when you really think about it, when individuals let emotion take hold of their action, they are their truest self, right? Their truest self. So I want you to think, if I'm going into these hypotheticals, into these questions in a logical and tactful manner, and I elevate my voice in the process, it's because I'm passionate. I'm emphasizing it. Yeah, to you it sounds like emotion, but it's how I inform that emotion. I'm not letting the emotion take control of my message. The message is emotional. That's the difference. So today's question, I guess it could have to do with emotion in a sense. They're asking, and this is coming out of r/career guidance. They're asking why hiring managers don't hire people who want the job too much. If you want the job too much, boss, I'm desperate. I'll do anything for this job. You don't want to do anything for the job. First, you want to get hired and maybe explore what you can do for the job. Get paid first. Get on the payroll first. Sign the contract. Have them sign the agreement, right? Create the agreement first before you start exploring ways to branch out and expand. But is it a sense of desperation? A sense of exasperation, anxiety, nerves? Is it something that the hiring manager or the interviewer sees in you that they don't think is coming off as healthy. I've been in certain situations before where I meant to be in an interview capacity, in an interview role, and I just had a lot of stuff on my plate, a lot of things cooking, a lot of wheels and gears turning in my head, where it's not that I couldn't go through with the interview, but the answers that I was giving were tainted, were dirty. If I explain myself, if I'm making myself be understood, right? Say I just got, for the sake of argument, just got done doing some dirt, right? And there are a lot of gears turning in an event where you're not only doing dirt, but you're having to clean up and then cover or make cover, create alibis, right? And you switch from that environment where you're running on adrenaline, high speed, high stress, and you have to calm down. And that comes with practice. But even then, even for the experienced, there are moments where, you're too calm. And your sense of social interaction and how you navigate your moral compass in real time can be influenced by the dirt you've committed before, right? It's the same concept as you are what you have done, right? You are what you have done in the past. You are your history. Why? Because it's your lived experiences that provide for who you are in the present and, to a degree, influence, not necessarily dictate, but influence what you do in the future. Funny, right? Funny. So this person is asking why hiring managers don't hire people who want the job too much. I was going off on a tangent there, right? But if you're ever interviewing, really take a couple of minutes before the interview, which is another reason not to show up late. Show up 15 minutes, show up half an hour early to the place and just be sitting. Just sit in the lobby. Not because you have nothing else to do, but because psychologically and socio-psychologically, you showing up early provides you the exposure to get over whatever stressors, whatever stimulations, whatever environmental sensory arousal that occurs when you first show up. And if you're running late, you're already sped up. You might be out of breath. You might be exasperated. I'm sorry, I showed up late. I couldn't find parking. The fucking traffic, right? But if you show up early, it could play. It could. It could, because you're still working with, how your past showing up there early influences what you're about to do in the future, which is jump into this interview. So you play your cards correctly. You play yourself correctly by setting yourself up for success. And I've used that term before, where if I'm ever going into a situation, I'm treating it like the first half of self-sabotage, which is setting myself up. I want to look good on my way out. So you get there early. Do you or do you not? Actually, before I go there, say you get there on time, just on time, and the interviewer is, they're fucking lagging it for whatever reason. Maybe they had an interview before you and they can't manage and organize their time adequately. appropriately. That's the word I was looking for. They can't organize their time appropriately. So now their interview is running into your time slot, the time that you had set aside to interview with them. Do you or do you not feel a sense of almost entitlement? Like, these motherfuckers, I carved out this time to come in and interview and they make me wait? Do you or do you not want to burn the place down? It's jokes. That's jokes, folks. I mean, I got to give a legal disclaimer real quick because I'm just pontificating. I'm not giving legal advice. That's the disclaimer. Anything in the form of content that we provide across the Corporate Cowboys podcast, you cannot, will not, shall not, may not construe as legal advice unless you've retained us in some capacity and we're your legal counsel, and we're your representative, right? If the shoe fits, though, theoretically, metaphorically, you may be able to lace it up. It might not be a perfect fit, but given the question here, we don't have too many facts to go on. What I'd like to do is lay out a sort of blueprint on how we address each of these questions case by case, treating them as if they were coming from a hypothetical client, right? Now, I haven't even read this question, and it's a short one, which is why I may be putting it off. But this question is so dense, so thick. And I've already reached the point that I want to get across, the message that I want to get across. Put yourself in the shoes of a person who shows up just on time and they are made to wait. Is that or is that not aggravating? You begin to develop a sense of entitlement over that time slot. You had been promised that time slot. That time slot was set aside for you. And you also set that time aside to come in for this interview. And it's not happening at the time you both agreed on. How fucking frustrating, how infuriating that might be, right? That could be. But we're consummate professionals, right? Best case scenario is that you walk in and you give them a chance, right? If they're not, again, too late, they're not really yanking your chain and making you wait fucking hour and a half. Oh, sorry, Alex. And the fucking business lunch meeting was carrying on or whatever the fuck. Unless this firm is so fucking prestigious and the reputation behind them is so obviously worth it. And it's just an industry practice that this is the social norms that are acceptable. Otherwise, why the fuck would you wait around? Why would you allow yourself to be disrespected and your time to be discounted and devalued like that? Right? That's going to inform a teensy bit. It's going to influence a teeny tiny bit how you interact with them socially during the interview, is it not? Your voice and your tone may take on a certain air of, yeah, well, we could have had this fucking interview 30 minutes ago. Yeah, well, you can't fucking manage your time correctly. Yeah, well, I don't know what kind of fucking shop I walked into, and now I gotta be on edge about management not keeping to their time commitments. But you're a professional. You're a consummate professional, which is why best case scenario, that might be a good case scenario, is to have them show up late. Bad case scenario, I'm not going to say worst case. Worst case scenario, you fucking die in a car wreck on the way to the interview, right? The end. Bad case is you show up late. That's fucked up, right? Now the power goes the other way. And the interviewer, if they choose to interview you, if they choose to follow through with the interview, they decide that you are a worthwhile candidate, that they'll do you the courtesy, do you the favor of interviewing you even if you were late. That's still a bad case scenario. You showed up late. You fucked up, fumbled the bag. Good case scenario, I mean, it's not the best, but good case scenario is going to be you show up on time and you're made to wait a reasonable amount of time. Again, but any amount of time you're made to wait, the ball is in your court. You have, I want to say perceptually, perspectively, conceptually, the upper hand. And now how you play it, again, could influence the outcome of the interview. But still, consummate professional, you're not going to fucking lord it over them. After all, you are the one applying for the job. But it can influence the voice and the tone that the interview takes. Best case scenario, towards the end, best case scenario is you show up early. And that's common practice. That's a professional recommendation. Folks say show up to your interviews 15 minutes early. Show up to your shifts 10, 15 minutes early sometimes. I mean, that's all dependent on the type of work that you do, the colleagues and the culture that you keep, right? It may benefit you to show up early, to lay down additional groundwork where you need it, to be able to network and socialize professionally socialize effectively. Best case scenario is you show up early. And I've been holding this to the end, right? I did tell you that. You show up early as is recommended, right? Don't be running late. Don't put things off to the last minute where you're rushing around to collect everything and making sure you're not forgetting something. You show up early, 15 minutes. And the interview takes place exactly at the time it's scheduled. But in that 15 minutes that you were waiting, your senses acclimate to you being there. Your blood pressure may go down a little bit, 1 or 2 beats. I mean, you're calm, cool, collected. You're cold and you're calculating. You only begin to develop that sense of entitlement of having to wait. But you're waiting on your terms. You're not being made to wait. They're not running late. And you definitely are not late. And so the interview is kept copacetic, mutually professional. The beginnings of a consummate professional interaction. I mean, that's the state we all strive to achieve. It's consummate professionalism. That's the best case scenario. You show up early and the interview takes place when it is supposed to. I mean, I'm not even going to explore you showing up early and then they starting the interview late, right? Making you wait an excessive amount of time. At that point, I mean, you're dealing with a bad case. A bad case because, shit, we're professionals. We're going to show up early regardless. that just becomes a bad case scenario. I don't even think I read the question on this, but I touched on the points that I wanted. I'm satisfied with what I got. I finished. Did you finish? Woo. They write, I talked lately with a friend who is a team leader and hiring manager, and he told me he never hires an applicant if he or she wants the job too much, even though he or she might be more than qualified. Why is that so? I'm going to think it's the way they interviewed. It's really the way they interviewed. Yes, you should always be applying, scouting, prospecting what's available, what's out there, and interviewing if possible, because a lot of those may turn out to be informational outputs that you can integrate and incorporate into your plan, into your strategy. I mean, the more information you have in your particular industry with certain firms and organizations, the better. You can't go wrong with more information that you yourself have been able to verify. I mean, you collected it personally. Why wouldn't it be true? If you know what you're doing it right. But it's a matter of how you interview. I mean, if you really want this job, you have to prepare for it adequately. It can't just come across to the hiring manager that you need the job. You shouldn't fucking need it, right? What you should need is each other. They should need you as much as you need them. Typically, I mean, professionally, ideally, the feeling should be mutual. They should be selling you on the position. You should be selling them on your skill, on your knowledge, on your expertise, on yourself as a professional. They sell you the profession. You sell them the professional. Shake hands. Make business possible. Make business better. If for whatever reason the ball ends up in one or the other side's court, I mean, it's possible that the company is desperate to have you on board. Would that not give you an eerie sense that something is up with the company? Why do they want me? We were just talking for 5-10 minutes. They don't know shit about me except what I put on my resume. And my resume is supposed to be an introduction to me. They haven't asked, they haven't learned anything about me. For me to genuinely think, for me to actually think, they genuinely want me as a professional and not just a body because they're desperate. An employer can feel the same way. If you're interviewing, not because of the potential for a career prospect, but because you need the check and you need it now. You're desperate. You want it now. It's going to come off as a sense of, where is this person's due diligence to learn about the job? They're not asking any questions. They're interviewing from a position of inferiority almost. And interviewing from a position of inferiority does not lend itself to cultivating loyalty, right? If you're not there for the profession, you're only there for the position. I mean, shit. Then the next offer that comes along with $20 more At the end of your salary, you'll jump ship. And as a hiring manager, that is not a candidate that I would want working for me. Right? But like I said, it goes both ways. It also falls on me to have a position that's worthwhile, that's attractive, that's encouraging of professional development for anyone who chooses to apply. Granted, there's going to be certain skill sets that I'm looking for in my candidates. So when that candidate comes up in interviews, they know in advance the skills that I'm looking for. And so they're able to sell me on that skill set and how they've used it, the experience they have, professional and otherwise. And in turn, I lay out for them the position. I lay out for them the profession that they are going to enter via our firm. I mean, this is a lot of higher level thinking, strategizing. It's not an easy question, but we've done this enough that it's regular philosophy. It's a regular strategy. It should be a tactic, not a tactic. It should be. Is it a tactic? It should be a strategy that professionals have as a standard to keep for themselves. And it really just starts with showing up at least on time, if not early. Always, if you can. Always show up early, if not on time. And then never show up late. I mean, if there's an emergency, obviously you want to communicate. A good team member communicates. And you may be able to cultivate enough rapport and reputation and credibility where, I mean, you show up late every now and then. It may not hurt you so long as you get the work done, but still you ought to be communicating. Let's take a look at one or two of these comments here, and I might be able to critique them for you. The first one says, I don't know, but I've turned down offers because the interviewers seemed too desperate to hire me. Yes, okay, yeah, I did touch on that. The company wants you. They're desperate to have you. They fucking need a body to fill this position, right? That gives off a sense of eeriness, of awkwardness, of not fitting. It's unfit for you to commit and sign on to this position because they haven't learned anything about you. They just read your resume once, skimmed it at that, seen a couple of keywords. This motherfucker's got warm blood pump. He's alive. Let's throw him in there, see what happens. Right? What guarantees do you have? What have you negotiated with them as far as your duties, your tasks, work obligations, professional development even? I mean, that's got to be in the back of everyone's mind. Is what comes next. What you're going to be doing while on the job there to improve what it is you do or have done to be able to grow to the next step. You're just going to be a lifer in this one spot and not move from it. Again, an interview is a two-way street. It's a two-way street. And if your interviewer does not know how to conduct interviews, then it's on you, the interviewee, not to guide them, but to influence them professionally. The second comment here says, there is a fine line between being passionate and desperate. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And I believe that goes towards my outline for the best case scenario, a good case scenario, a bad case scenario, and the worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario being that you show up late, you fucked up the interview. Bad case scenario is you show up on time and they start you late, right? Good case scenario is going to be you show up on time and they start on time. Best case scenario is you show up early and they start on time. Why? Because you showing up early, again, gives you that 15, 20 minutes, however long you choose to show up early to acclimate to your environment. Keep in mind, you're going into a negotiation of sorts. This is a negotiated interview. Not only are you going in to learn more than what you could find online on their webpage through their LinkedIn's, right? But you're also attempting to negotiate your way in. What it is you want to do on the job, what it is you want to get paid, when you want to get paid, how many days vacation or weeks vacation, months vacation they're willing to give you, additional fringe benefits, expense accounts, company cars, all of that. You're going in. And so you want as much time as you believe you ought to give yourself to prepare emotionally, right? If you're racing and rushing in through the door, you believe you're going to think of all of those points. I mean, unless have them written down. But even then, even if you have them written down, you arriving in a hurry, in a rush, you won't be operating as effectively as you could if you showed up early. You take your time, you take a deep breath, and you prepare yourself for war. And this is more so close quarter combat. You are not working with rifles, long arms, or small arms even. You're working with something surgical, up close and personal. You want things your way, right? But obviously you don't want to win over them. The goal of business, any business, ideally, is to win together. Walk away from your negotiation. You talk to any number of professionals, at least the professionals in my circle. There are some that they're more win-lose and they believe it's all a zero-sum game and that if they don't win, they fucking lost. And so they have to beat someone else mercilessly into the ground, put them 6 feet under, right? Or they feel like they fucking lost. If the other person walked away breathing, I didn't do my job, right? That's not so much true. Keep in mind that you can use apple pie to make more apple pie. There's fucking videos and memes on it. Let's take a whole apple pie, grind it up, use it as the crust for the next. More apple pie. You could learn to make more together. Expand the pie. Don't fucking fight over it. That's a difficult concept when most everything is made of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. I'm gonna cut you off right there, man. I was about to get too wild, too twisted. So take care of yourselves. Have a nice one. I'll catch you next time.